The tools we're going to utilize in this class is Desmos.com. Now, what's really interesting about Desmos.com from a teacher perspective is it's a free website that functions like a graphing calculator. So whenever we have students that can't necessarily afford a graphing calculator, or if I'm sharing on a projector in front of the screen for my students, I'll often use this to make the graph, and then I'll talk about the different points on the graph, and I can actually point with my projection. You will be able to utilize a graphing calculator for most certification tests. So this will help you get used to what that feels like and looks like. You are definitely not expected to do all of this by hand. I am expecting that you will use the technology available in this class like Desmos as we work through problems. So once you're on the home page, you're going to actually click on Graphing Calculator. And what's really kind of cool about their graphing calculator is it can graph multiple equations at one time. Now, what's important is you always have to start an equation with y equals. Desmos will not graph something if you don't have it solved for y, so that is a piece that you have to make sure your equation is in the right form. So let's say that I want to graph 1/2 x minus 2. So all I'm going to do is type in using my keyboard y equals 1/2 x minus 2, and Desmos is going to generate the graph. And you should notice there's some interesting points here. So if I was looking for the y-intercept, that would be at 0, -2. If I'm looking for the x-intercept, or where it crosses the x-axis, that would be at 4, 0. So I'm able to utilize Desmos to find the intercepts. I'm also able to utilize it if I'm looking at a multiple choice question and it's asking me which of the following is a possible graph. You could actually graph this in Desmos and then compare the actual graphs. It's also really nice that you can click on these points and it tells you what they are. In a handheld graphing calculator, it's a little bit more difficult. And so we'll be able to change, and we can put a -1, and you'll notice if I've put a negative in front, it's going to flip the line. I can have +2. As long as I'm typing things in as y equals, I'm able to graph them. Now, let's say you want to graph two things. Notice what it does if I want to graph two things is it's going to create the second graph in a different color, and you'll be able to tell which graph is which by the colors the equations are next to. So I know that equation 2 has a y-intercept of 0, -3, and it has an x-intercept of 1.5, 0. So the nice thing about Desmos, again, as compared to a handheld, is that it does color code things, which will really help make things easier for you. So that's a quick crash course in Desmos. It has a lot of other features as we move along in the class that we'll talk about, but this is the application for graphs of lines.